Hello there, thank you for joining me, and it's another XP Xtreme video. In our last video we showed you how this machine could penetrate deep on a small hoard of coins where conventional detectors run out of steam. Well, in today's video we're going to get a little bit more technical. We're going to talk about the menus and features. The Xtreme has a very simple, easy to understand but functional menu. I'm just going to run through some of the key features. So starting off, we have the sensitivity. Now traditionally you're going to use this machine, I think, between sensitivity levels of 70 to 90 depending on the conditions and the environment. And now we have disc IAR. Disc IAR is a form of ion rejection, not total ion rejection. You can tell when you've gone over a ferrous target with disc IAR on because it will give a low tone and a rolling display will give a hatched graphic. Just remember that disc IAR is a motion system, so the machine has to be in motion for it to work. Whereas your traditional detecting with disc IAR off, for example, it's a non-motion, so you can stop over the target. And the next one is audio threshold. The threshold is the hum, the carrier in the background, the audio carrier. At 0 there's no threshold, at 1, 2, 3, etc. you start introducing more of a threshold. Some people like to use threshold, some people don't. I find it's quite a good feature because if I've got a threshold in the background and it starts to drift, I know the machine will need retuning just by simply pressing the pinpoint button. The threshold can also help to filter out, smooth out those little audio spikes in the background, the little jitters. But the downside of running a threshold is there is the chance that you'll lose some small faint signals because it will be drowned by the threshold. Let's move down one more, reactivity. Now this is an important one because you're using a deep seeker. You want to use a reactivity as low as possible. So running a low reactivity, your walking pace needs to slow down to match it. As we raise the reactivity up, the machine becomes slightly faster. So a faster reactivity will be better in a contaminated environment. And the shorter signals from the reactivity higher will also make pinpointing a little bit easier. But once again, going back to a lower reactivity, it combats EMI a little bit better. Let's go down to auto tune. Now auto tune is off as standard. So when the machine starts to drift, you press the pinpoint button to retune it, but you've got auto tune on. You can turn it up to different levels. So as soon as the machine starts to drift, the auto tune resettles it again. But there's one thing with auto tune what you need to be aware of. If you've got auto tune on and you keep passing over a target, eventually the auto tune will eliminate that target. So for pinpointing a target, it's always best to turn the auto tune off. Let's go down one more, frequency shift. Well, that speaks for itself. If you've got EMI, you can shift the frequencies to a cleaner channel. So now we're on to audio response. What does audio response actually do? Well, it adjusts the levels of target intensity. If you've got a low audio response, say 1, small or deep targets will sound faint, whereas large or shallow targets will sound loud. Now, as you start to raise the audio response up, these deep targets will start to sound loud, just like a shallow target, so you won't have any perception of depth. And also a high audio response can make the machine a little bit more jittery, so don't run that too high because you're amplifying the ground signals as well as the target signals. So what's the best height to have the search coils on the Xtreme? Well, I find somewhere between the top of the knee and the hip works absolutely fine. But you can experiment in the field. And what about ground balancing? That's really simple. All you have to do is press and hold the pinpointer, nod the front coil to the ground until you get a ground reading, release the pinpoint button and you're ground balanced. So if for some reason you can't achieve a proper ground balance, the most common cause is the ground isn't giving off a strong enough signal. The machine will just simply default to 87. Straight away you'll notice that the Xtrem has got a totally different working interface. It's got a real-time rolling graphic as you detect. Now you'll see the humps on the screen. The high humps are the target intensity and the wide humps are the target signal duration. And you can stop it at any time by just pressing the minus button, which stops the graphic, so you can spend a little bit of time and analyse the target. And once you want it to run again, just press the pause stop button and your graphics will start rolling on again. So how do you get this new interface on your XP Deus 2 RC? Let's assume that you've just bought the coil set and you already own the Deus 2. Well, it's really simple. All you have to do is pair it as a new coil. So once you put the serial numbers into your RC, you will then be presented with the brand new interface. And this interface is only for the Xtrem. Battery life. Well, it states you get up to 10 hours use with this machine on a 4-hour charge. And don't forget, as with all XP products, you've got a 5-year warranty. Can you use the XP Xtrem underwater? Well, no, you can't, but it is completely weatherproof, so you can take it out in some pretty adverse weather conditions. So why didn't we make the Xtrem compatible with the Deus 1 and the ORX? But if we did that, it will simply be just another single frequency twin box machine, and there's plenty of those on the market. The beauty of the Xtrem is it's multi-frequency, so we've got stability and it's going to work on a wide range of ground conditions. Typically, a single frequency twin box will wallow, it'll be very unstable, whether it's due to the ground going up and down or your movements. They were very difficult to keep stable. With the multi-frequency machine, it just cancels out the grounds and gives you a nicer working platform. So how would I use the Xtrem if I'm searching on my own? Well, I tend to use a few plastic cones and find a signal, mark them off, and then go back with the XP Deus 2 and just check the signals. If you can't get the signal with a Deus 2, well, that's a deep target. If you can get the signal with a Deus 2, you can better identify the target and perhaps pinpoint it exactly. But these cones are a really good idea because you can map out several targets in a short space of time, and they're also ideal for marking out potential pipelines. I like to carry them like this on the flat plane of the coil, and it also helps me keep the machine nice and steady. Well, that's just about it. I hope that's answered some XP Xtrem Hunter questions you may have had. If you do end up buying one of these machines and have some success with it, XP would love to hear from you, so get in contact with us. But until then, I wish you all the best, happy hunting, and bye for now.